a movement called Bridging the Gap. And the idea is that they are frustrated by some developments in American political science. Developments of delving deeply into methodology and rational choice, formal modeling, things like that. For these people, for them, as if they have the panacea to grasp solutions for all kinds of social issues or problems. So they're frustrated by this, and they think we should look more at the real world. So they started a movement bridging the gap between theory and practice, between scholarship and policy, by looking more to the at the real world. In China, this has not been a problem. Or put it differently, there's no such movement in China. And I also have noticed a difference in political cultures. In American political culture, I can be wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong. The government is a necessary evil. It is necessary, but it is an evil. So we have to constrain it. We have to limit its power and so on. In the Chinese political culture, people have a more paternalistic view of government. Seeing government as a tool, or government is expected to provide people with a lot of things, good things. People have expectations of government. So for those of you who have the grasp of the Chinese language, we have a term called 父母官 in the Chinese language, like parent official, something like that. But I doubt there's such an idea in your country. So the downside of this political culture, to me, is in our system, we are not very effective in constraining government power. We should think about this harder. What we should do to constrain government power? That said, in terms of scholarship and public policy, in today's China, the universities are encouraged to serve the society more. And as a part of it, academics are encouraged to conduct more policy-relevant research. For example, international studies are rapidly becoming a prominent field. It has been rapidly growing in China as a field. To a large extent, this is quite understandable, given the many challenges that are facing our country. China is increasingly integrating into the world. And with this come a lot of challenges, problems, and tasks. For example, a few years ago in 2010, when the crisis broke out in Libya, and when it became clear that we had to quickly evacuate our people from Libya, we had not known that there were as many as 30,000 Chinese workers in Libya. We had not known about that. And we suddenly realized that there were so many, we have so many people in Libya. And later, we tried very hard to evacuate them from Libya, and tried used every kinds of means to evacuate them. That kind of development can be seen in every part of the world today. Well, we can see the presence of China, the spread of China's interest to every corner of the world. So international studies or IR as a field has been rapidly growing, and there is a growing demand from government for information, knowledge, and analysis, because there are so many challenges and tasks that are facing the government. On the supply side, the Chinese research institutions, they are always happy to offer their insights or analysis or suggestions. As you all know, it is extremely difficult to measure the influence. Who has what influence in the policy making process or foreign policy making process? It is very difficult, if not completely impossible, because the process from input to output is extremely complex, and the process is not that transparent in our country. That said, we can try to identify different forms of input or influence in the foreign policy making process, and this is what I try to analyze. I think there are different forms of input in the foreign policy making process, and the academic community is a part of it. One form of influence or that kind of input is policy briefs. This is a very popular form of providing information or recommendation to the policy makers. almost every institution is trying to produce that kind of policy brief for policy making. And well, the research institutions, they know policy makers, they are very busy. They have little time to read materials. So these kind of policy briefs are usually short. They are quick to respond to the new developments, to come up with new analysis of the issues, and they try to send them to people who have power and influence, which is quite understandable. So these kind of briefs are short, quick, and very often sharp as well, to catch the eyeballs of the policy makers. And there are many these kind of policy briefs, which is very popular. The second form of input is consultation. And there are two forms within this category. One is advisory meeting. For example, when a ministry feels that it is necessary to study a specific issue, and it thinks that they can have some wisdom or analysis from outside the government, they may convene a meeting and invite people from the research community to participate and to express their views, provide their views on that specific issue. And the organizers may summarize the views that are expressed during the meeting, and use it as something that they can refer to for policy considerations. You know, China is a big country. We have more neighboring countries than any other country in the world. On land, China borders 14 countries. And of course, we have other neighboring countries from across the seas, right? 6 or 7. So we have many neighboring countries. And the provinces that are on the periphery of our country, often they have expertise about the particular countries with which that they share the border, right? So research institutions in those provinces are often approached by the central government ministries, policy makers, for their information or analysis about the particular countries that they share border. For example, we have Yunnan province in the south, and it borders Burma or Myanmar. And research institutes in Yunnan, they often have a lot of expertise about Myanmar. So universities or research institutes, by the way, in every province there is an Academy of Social Sciences. So the academies of social sciences, they are playing a role. And for another example is Guangxi, it's borders Vietnam, and they have a lot of expertise about Vietnam. Jilin in the northeast, they have a lot of expertise about the Korean Peninsula. Heilongjiang, they have a lot of expertise about Russia. And Sichuan they have a lot of expertise about India and other South Asian countries. So these peripheral provinces, they have their respective information expertise, and often they are approached for advisory opinions. The other form of consultation is the establishment of advisory panels. For example, the Foreign Ministry established a foreign policy advisory panel, 外交政策咨询委员会, back in 2008, which is supposed to provide views or analysis about new developments in the international situation and China's foreign affairs. There are 31 members of the advisory panel. Some of them are retired ambassadors, usually those big ambassadors, and others are experts of foreign affairs. So there have been creation of this kind of advisory panels to provide information or analysis. The third form of is commissioned studies. Usually when government feels that as I was mentioning earlier, there are so many issues that need to be studied. So they may come up with a list of issues that these issues should be carefully studied. So we come up with a list and ask some of the research institutions to carry out research into these issues. And often they have small grants for this kind of commissioned studies. So the research institutions are often happy to do that kind of work, not because of the grant. It's just a small amount of money. But rather that they think they can prove they are useful by carrying out this kind of work and provide this kind of their studies to the government. Some of the issues are short-term issues. Because, for example, there are crises, there are events that suddenly happened, things like that. And there are more longer-term issues, For example, for many years, we adhere the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, right? And one of the principles, the 5 principles, is a non-interference in internal affairs. And nowadays, there have been a lot of discussions about this principle, non-interference, non-intervention, or non-interference in internal affairs. How we should understand this, and because of the spread of China's interests and events, there are events such as our workers were attacked in some of the African countries where we have construction projects. Our engineers were shot dead in Pakistan or Afghanistan. And our companies have troubles. There have been a lot of this kind of developments. So our government and our diplomats have to quickly act to tackle this kind of problems, and we encounter the issue of non-interference or non-intervention. So this can be an issue that the government asks research institutions to study. A fourth input is participation in public diplomacy. And the term public diplomacy is very much come from the United States, and it's becoming very popular as a term or as an issue in China in recent years. The conduct of public diplomacy is supposed to seek more understanding or support from the foreign countries. It is supposed to win the hearts and minds from other peoples, right? So this has become an important issue for China as well, because this is an important part of China's external environment. Within the foreign ministry, a particular section was created called Public Diplomacy Division several years ago for this kind of affairs. And groups have been organized to explain better to the world about our country. For example, Tibet. Very often foreigners they are very curious about Tibet, and they often heard of it. They've heard of Dalai Lama, and so forth. But they may have little knowledge about Tibet. They have not traveled to the Tibetan region. So it is necessary to explain to the outside world better about about what have happened, about today's Tibet. So it is seen as a public diplomacy work, and there are other examples as well. The fifth form of input is what I would call public means. In this era of information explosion, there are something people in this country call CNN effect, right? Television and other media are playing such an influential role. So they are the media and new media, social media are playing a increasingly influential role in influencing and shaping people's opinion. So when experts, specialists, they publish pieces in newspapers, they appear on television, and they use other means, like microblog, other means, to communicate with their audiences. They play a role, right, in shaping public opinion, and some of them are playing a role as opinion leaders, right? But these are public means. For example, we have an influential newspaper today, 环球时报, Global Times, which becomes very well known. And nowadays they publish both Chinese edition and English edition. And as far as I know, researchers in the United States who study the Chinese affairs, they often turn to Global Times. So when the op-eds that appear in Global Times can be they are relatively more widely seen by both domestic and international audiences, right? So it has a sort of influence. But the problem is, very often Global Times or 环球时报 is seen as the voice of China in the outside world, and this could be misleading. Again, it is very difficult to measure the influence that people have, or the researchers have in this regard. But this is a important way that the specialists influencing the society and possibly policy as well. The sixth kind of input is track to dialogues, which is better known to people these days. Many research institutions or think tanks have participated in this kind of dialogues a so-called track 2, because it's different from government to government communication or dialogue. For example, well, there are many track 2 dialogues nowadays. For example, this cooperation for the Council for Security Cooperation in the Asia Pacific, or CSCAP, is a channel for research organizations of the Asia Pacific countries to get together to discuss various issues and to provide analysis or recommendations to the various governments. And there is a CSCAP China committee as well. And issues that have been discussed within CSCAP vary from maritime security, energy security, water security, to, well, nuclear security. Things like that. There are many. And so this has been a useful grouping or track 2 dialogue channel to discuss all these kind of issues in the Asia Pacific. And another example is Pacific Economic Cooperation Mechanism, or PECC, which was created prior to CSCAP. A major track 2 dialogue mechanism is network of East Asian think tanks, or it's an abbreviation, NEAT, N-E-A-T. It was created within the so-called 10+3 framework. The 10 ASEAN countries plus Japan, China, and South Korea. The 13 countries started their cooperation since the Asian financial crisis in 1997. And some years later, the East Asian Study Group, which was like an eminent persons group, came up with various recommendations to the 13 governments. And one of the recommendations that the East Asian Study Group proposed was to form a network of East Asian think tanks. So that means the leading think tanks from the 13 countries, they form a network and hold regular meetings to discuss or deliberate the issues that they believe are important for the 13 governments to think about. So this has been operating since 2003, and well, understandably so. The past 10 years, they have obviously discussed many issues, and it is continuing. The seventh form is what I call individual channel. Individuals, they have all kinds of, they have different connections with policymakers, right? by certain activities, they have some input in the policy making process as well. And the most obvious example was Mr. Wang Daohan, the mayor of Shanghai. And later, he became the head of the organization of the association on the mainland side, who was responsible for cross-Taiwan trade affairs. And to be more important than that he had personal connections with the top leadership. So he played a major role, an informal but important role during those years. He passed away in 2005, I believe. For example, he and his associates, some of the researchers that have had close relationship with him, came up with a report which proposed to create a national security commission in China, like your National Security Council in the United States. And of course, they explained why we need this, why we should do this, and so on. So that was almost 20 years ago, as I understand it. It didn't happen during President Jiang's 13 years. It didn't happen during President Hu Jintao's 10 years. It just happened during President Xi Jinping's time. So, well, you can see the difference of leadership style. President Hu was very nice. He was willing to listen to other people, and so forth. President Xi Jinping is a more powerful leader, and he has an ambition, and it was he that made the decision that let's do it. So last November, the decision was announced to create a National Security Commission in our country. But the idea was proposed almost 20 years ago, and so this kind of influence per individual channel, personal channel, obviously is more informal, is more fluid. When somebody died, and this could quickly disappear, and that's what happened with the death of Mr. Wang Daohan. And the eighth form of input, I would say, personnel exchange. There's a world called diplomatic community. There's a different world called academia, right? And they are different worlds. But they share a lot of concerns or interests or issues. So it has become almost a consensus in China that the diplomatic community and the academic community should increase their exchange or dialogues between them. So as a way to to increase exchanges, we at Fudan University created a diplomat-in-residence program in partnership with the Foreign Ministry. By bringing mid-career Chinese diplomats to Fudan and Shanghai for a period of stay, during which they interact with scholars, academics, and students for, well, whatever, better kind of exchange of views and so on. And for the diplomatic community to explain to other communities better about what they have been doing. One of the reasons obvious reason was the foreign minister was often criticized for being soft on quite a few foreign policy issues. There is an opposite direction. That is, the foreign ministry thinks it may be useful to bring in some people from the research community. So what happened in recent years has been that the academia sent people to serve Chinese embassies abroad. Well, for example, we sent two colleagues to the Chinese mission to the EU, two colleagues to the Chinese embassy in New Delhi, and I went to Tokyo, and so on. There have been a few examples. Still an experiment, not institutionalized, but we have been doing this as an experiment to see whether we can do something useful. I guess I should not use too much time, and the ninth and final form of input is lecturing the Chinese leadership. And this is a unique way to have policy input. It's something that with Chinese characteristics, right? And the problem was, as you know, that the highest echelon of our governing system is the Politburo, right? And there are more than 25 members currently. And the leadership decided that the Politburo should get together to discuss and to learn something about domestic affairs, about international affairs, and they call it 集体学习, collective study. So this started in 2002, and from 2002 to 2011, there were 74 that kind of collective studies were held. And each time, two specialists are invited to talk about, well, each time, first the topic is chosen for each collective study. And two specialists are invited to talk about that particular issue, their opinion, their analysis, and so on. And well, then the Politburo members, they may ask questions and they have a discussion, things like that. So this is something which is unique in China. So I have identified 9 forms of influence or input. Some of them may overlap, and in terms of Chinese universities, as I was mentioning at the outset, the international studies are rapidly growing. Previously, we looked at, well, the United States, the superpower, Europe, another advanced industrial region, Japan, Russia, these major powers, and neighboring countries. Not much attention has been was paid to regions such as Latin America, Africa, Middle East. Nowadays, that's changed because we've realized that it is important for us to study all the regions of the world because of the reasons that I was mentioning earlier. So we have a term for this, 全覆盖, full coverage of the whole world, of every part of the world. So research institutions have been encouraged to set up new centers or institutes to study those regions that the new regions that usually had not been paid much attention, smaller countries and so on, remote regions and so forth. So these days, Chinese universities are encouraged to play a larger think tank role in offering information analysis and so on. Is this good or is this bad? I don't know, but this is what it is happening in China today.